G'day and welcome to the Game Day Squad Fantasy Cricket Show. I'm Dyl, that's Stu, and we are the Fantasy Bros. Thanks for tuning in once again as Stu and I preview everything Aus Cricket related to round 6. Obviously, we're coming to you a little bit earlier than normal. That is because Stu and I have a pretty important engagement a little bit later on, and that is the Heat versus the Thunder game. So we want to make sure we're there for first ball. Stu, round 5 wrapped up with a bit of a banger last night between the Strikers and the Hurricanes. The Canes getting the job done. Still no match short for the Strikers, which probably threw a bit of spanner into a works for a few coaches last game. Maybe had to make some last-minute adjustments. Did your squads perform a little bit better this round?
Yeah, g'day Dyl. G'day viewers. Thanks for tuning in once again. Anyone off to the Gabba tonight, make sure you come say hello and up the heat, that's for sure. Yeah, mate, the squads went okay in round 5, but I think I found myself on the wrong side of a couple of sort of 50-50 coin flips. They always seem to go the wrong way, don't they? In saying that, I still went pretty well in Champion, finishing 4th for the round, which is fantastic. But I think the focus is starting to shift slightly towards Starter and Classic. I'm currently 3rd and I think 6th overall in those two, which means I'm in prize card.
Yeah, nice. Oh, I think we've lost you early. What a change. Hopefully he jumps straight back in. I think he was saying 3rd and 6th overall in Starter and Classic respectively. So he's got to start having a look at those squads and focusing on those a little bit more. Obviously, I was under the weather last week, so thanks very much to Bales for jumping in and bailing me out. I'm sure he did a top-notch job. So really thanks a lot to Bales. Look, I'm looking at my squads, and I think a lot of my teams were a bit under the weather, similar to me. They didn't do too well. That man flu. That's all right, brother. That man flu for me, man. I actually was asleep during that first lockout of the heat sixes, so I missed all the rain delay and the weather, and there was a number of duck eggs stuck in my squads, unfortunately, so I didn't get in the money across any of my teams last week. But as you say, it's starting to lean towards the pointy end of the season. I think we're just over halfway through, and I'm starting to look at this end of season, the season long prizes, and I'm currently 11th in Champions, so just outside that top 10, 12th in Challenger as well. So I've slipped down a little bit there, but I'm 8th in Starter too. So a bit of juggling going on, I think, for me into where I put some of my cards and what I'm looking at in terms of strategy moving forward between Champ and Challenger.
Yeah, I just jump in there, mate. I double checked the end of season prizes earlier this morning, actually, and just remembered about the top 5 across all comps receiving a prize card. And that prize card comes in handy from next year onwards, where you can slot them into basically any squad, bar the starter squad. And in the Classic and the Challenger, they are actually reduced in salary. So you'll get a 1.4 multiplier, but you'll have a salary cap reduction, which is handy. So anyone in and around that sort of top 5 or top 10, that's something to look forward to, get into those top 5 by the end of the year. And that's certainly something I've got my sights on.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm looking forward to that end of season. Hopefully we run another draft pick for the prize cards as well. That'll be a bit of fun to finish the season. Obviously, as you can hear, I'm still got a little bit of the man flu just following me along a little bit. So I do apologize if I need to move away from the microphone and have a bit of a cough, but I promise I'll be all over it for the rest of the show. Look, remember, there's not too it's not too late. There's still plenty of time. You can sign up at any point. Jump onto the Game Day Squad website, create that account, use the promo code FBAC24. You still can get that free player rare pack. Rip that open and get your team started. You'll have plenty of opportunity to get some bronze cards as well with the free starter packs. So please jump on, support us. Use the promo code FBAC24, and then you can also have your very own referral code that you can share with your friends as well. Don't forget as well, make sure you fire through those questions for round 6. The Strikers are on a bye, while the Sydney Thunder are the ones that have a double this round. So we should start to see some of those test stars returning as well, mate. What are we going to get through today? Please let our viewers know.
Yeah, mate, as always, we'll review those top scorers from the previous round. we'll preview the upcoming rounds, and there's a little bit of weather around, so you got to make sure you're staying tuned, your ears to the ground regarding the weather again this week. Some, like you mentioned earlier, you were undone with regards to that last round, so we got to pay attention again this week. That's the third game, so it's not the start of the round, it's actually mid-round. So we'll have a bit of chat about the potential weather outcomes later on. We'll let you know who we're going to play in our champion squads, and we'll tell you about all the main plays that you probably should be looking to play across your squads. And we'll finish with, of course, the Brodown Showdown, where there might be a card or two available for the viewers. Do you want to get straight into it, mate?
Yep, let's jump in. So let's take a look at the top performers of round 5. And finally, it's taken a few rounds, but my man, he is there, and he is top of the list. He finally went out and banged out a ton in terms of GDS points. He scored 100. And look, I never doubted him. It only took 5 innings. Look, excuse me, 68 runs with the bat. That included 6 fours and 5 sixes. And then he got that 8-point bonus for reaching 50. And then he took a catch in the outfield as well. Look, I think you guys might have touched on, and I certainly would have, is that one of the key things for me was that he said at the end of his last innings that he changed his technique and his setup for the Aussie conditions, and that didn't work for him. So he just went back to what he knew. And lo and behold, he's had a couple of decent scores. So I'm really happy for him.
You know, there's probably a couple of people out there that have played him for his scores of 6, 4, duck, and lost the faith and not played him since. And they missed out on a couple of big ones. You played him last week, didn't you?
Yeah, that was probably my only good play last week, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, the all-rounder position, mate. Jacob Bethel is someone that we probably really need to start considering for our teams now. Having his all-rounder role at the Renegades expanded on his way to 94 game day squad points. He scored 49 runs with the bat, so his top score so far this season, where he hit 4 fours and 2 sixes. But it was his fielding. He was in all the hot spots. It was like there was a magnet attached to him and the ball. He took, 2 catches, and he had a run out in the field as well. And that's just so many extra bonus points as well. But the really interesting thing is the last 2 matches, he's actually taken 3 overs with the ball. Now, he took a wicket in the previous match. He didn't take one in the round just gone. But getting 3 overs with the ball, batting at 4 in the Renegades team is certainly someone that we need to consider. He's on the top of our radar now, given that he went off with 94 points. But anyone that played him last round, well done. Got yourself a really good score there.
Yeah. And a really good option, I think, moving forward, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then last off to round out the performances was Lance Morris of the Bowlers. An exciting finish to that match, which saw plenty of runs, and the unfortunate, massive collision between both Sams and Bancroft. And we hope they're doing well. And I think we've heard some good news today that both are recovering pretty well. So we'll probably touch on them a little bit later too. Look, it was Lance Morris who was the best with the ball, taking 3 for 22, including 14 dots on his way to 77 points. Didn't quite work out for me. I was leaning towards Behrendorff in that match, but I'm still happy to see Wild Thing go off and have an awesome game.
Yeah, I had Behrendorff as well, mate. And I think that's what you get with the Scorchers lineup, don't you? One of them tends to go off and get a bag. And this occasion, it was Lance Morris. And the moment you play him, he probably scores pretty poorly. And Behrendorff or Ty or the others go off. I think I'm still going to play a Scorchers bowler this round, hint, hint. But it's not going to be Morris. It's not going to be Behrendorff. Let's hope there's someone else on that team sheet returning from the test squad. Mate, we're off to the Gabba tonight. Want to get cracking and preview that match?
Yeah, definitely. So the Heat up against the Thunder. It is at the Gabba, as we've said. Kickoff is 6:15, and look, the weather is perfect for cricket today. Unreal day. Hopefully that not a cloud in the sky, and that should be some good weather for some great cricket. In terms of GDS, average score of 34.2 at the Gabba, so it's not too bad. The first innings is a little bit low, it's 30, and the second innings about 38 points. The Thunder have allowed an average of about 35, again, which isn't, it's sort of middle of the park. And then they've scored an average of 36.5. Whereas the Heat, they've allowed a little bit more. They allow 36, or so almost 37 GDS points. And then the Heat have scored an average of 31.8, which was equal last, which is not a good sign for the boys. But in hopefully some big news, it might finally be time for some Michael Neeser in the team. He's been on the team sheet for a few rounds, and he should be raring, ready to go, hopefully. And then obviously those couple of big outs with the Thunder, losing the 200 players. And as there was a bit of chat around on the Discord today, they've gone out and they've signed the old boy Dan Christian, who I believe was an assistant coach. So he's been in and around the team as their local replacement. Not a bad shout for a local replacement. He's had some decent knocks over the last couple of weeks as well in New South Wales Premier Cricket. So you never know, we might see Dan Christian one more time in the Big Bash.
Yeah, mate, he's the most decorated T20 player to ever live, really. He's travelled the world, and he's got about 10 or 12 titles in 8 or 9 different countries and 4 or 5 different continents. So pretty handy player to be bringing into the squad. Not sure if he'll find a way into my team. I don't even think he'll make their 11, but he's handy there just in case. I think he's got to be named as a local replacement anyway. But whether or not he gets a start, we're not sure. I've actually got a couple of cards of his from a few seasons ago. So those of us that have played for a few years might have a few of his cards. And if he gets a game in the very last round or something, he might give him a little bit of a send off and say, well done, Daniel. You can have a run in my team. Mate, the Thunder have a double match this round with a big asterisk next to it. Obviously, we alluded to it earlier. There is a bit of weather around in Sydney, not just for the game on Wednesday, but today and tomorrow as well. So whether or not that game goes ahead is still under debate. But also the fact that they do play the Heat tonight at the Gabba. We don't necessarily want to be smashing a whole heap of Thunder into our squads just for the sake of it, given that there is some rain around for Wednesday. But, mate, who are the Thunder players that you think are relevant for this round?
Yeah, it's tough. I agree that you don't want to put too many in. I think, everyone's learned their lesson now from the last few weeks that just because there's a double game doesn't mean that your player scores well.
Yeah.
But I think there's a few names that are almost must-haves. I think just with that chance of potentially the second game, but also their opportunity that they have against a team that in the Heat that we would love to go well, but just at the moment they're just leaking points and they're not getting the job done. So I'm starting off with Green in my all-rounder position, and we've spoken about Green quite a bit, and that probably lack of all-rounder status really in the squad at the moment. Does that change with Daniel Sams out? Maybe it does. Maybe he moves up the order a little bit. So I'll be really interested to see what that final team list looks like. But for me, you've got to go Green. He scored 89 points last round. However, again, it all came through the wickets, not the runs. I think he might have got 11 runs or something like that. So that's probably not enough from that all-rounder position, and you're really relying on him to take a 3-4 wicket bag. But again, he's really the only Thunder all-rounder that you can play that's available to play in that position. So I think he'll be pretty popular.
Yeah, that's right, mate. Looking at their squad, they've named Liam Hatcher, I think, and he looks like a pretty good replacement for Daniel Sams in terms of what he offers with the ball. Definitely not so much with the bat, which might see Chris Green sliding up the order a little bit, which will be fantastic. If he's coming in at 6 and bowling his 4 overs of spin, particularly in Sydney at NG Stadium, if the game does go ahead, I think he's in for a big one. The Heat might be a little bit susceptible to some of that spin during the middle overs. And certainly on Wednesday night, if he gets if the game goes ahead, I think he'll be able to score get a couple of wickets for sure. Mate, he's currently averaging 44 game day squad points, which isn't fantastic on the all rounder list, but he's currently second in wickets in all round eligible players behind only Jamie Overton, which shows you that he has been bowling really, really well.
Yeah.
But he's only got 25 runs with the bat, which is 21st overall with all-round eligible players. I can see him sliding up the list maybe to that one extra spot, which means he is a little bit more likely to get a chance with the bat, and that's only going to result in more game day squad points. So because they're on the double, because he's probably got a slightly increased role, I think he's a pretty safe play, and he'll be in most of my squads this round. Another bowler I'm really keen on is your mate Lockie Ferguson, and I say your mate because you always pick him in the Bro Down Showdown. He's always in your best 11. You're from the same country. He hasn't really delivered yet, so why is he still in your squad?
Yeah, it's been probably back-to-back disappointing games without a wicket and scoring less than 10 base points across both of those games. So it's tough. Obviously, those conditions and those pitches that he's been playing on probably not as conducive to the fast bowlers getting wickets. We saw as well Wes Agar come into the team and have an absolute blinder in his first 2 games, and that obviously impacted on Ferguson taking some wickets as well. But look, this is likely, and I say likely, but it's more than likely that this is his final round in the competition. He does fly out to the UAE for their T20 comp that starts on the 11th, I think. So he's looking to head over there. So I would say that these 2 games are his last 2 games in Oz cricket. So I really want him to have a big game in at least one of the 2 that, pending the weather. But I could just see him coming out and in front of a massive crowd tonight at the Gabba and just absolutely blitzing the Heat. For all the home fans to be pretty upset at, and I'll be slightly cheering, little quiet fist pump in the corner when he does knock over a few players. Because look, I think he's still got the talent. He's got the speed with the ball, and I guess the other thing is the Heat allow 35 GDS points to quicks this season, which is 15 more than spin or medium pace. So they are susceptible to those quicks, and hopefully the Gabba's nice and fast for him.
Yeah, mate, and I'll be sitting next to you there at the Gabba tonight. So if he's going off and you're fist pumping and cheering, I want to be having those same feelings as well. So I think he'll enter my squad. He's been in my squad most rounds now, so it'll be silly to jump off. I'll probably live to regret it if he does go big. I think. So because he leaves in a couple of rounds, he probably wants to in a couple of matches. He probably does want to finish with a bang, and he probably knows that he has been down on performance. He probably set some really high goals for himself, and to see Wes Agar come in and sort of out bowl him in terms of taking some wickets, he'll probably want to atone for that. So I can see him steaming in today. He's going to take a couple, and he's definitely in my squad this round as well. The Thunder batsmen might have a couple potential starts this round, but what's really concerning for me is that they're not just up against Spencer Johnson and Xavier Bartlett, but they might also be up against Michael Neser tonight as well. That's a pretty powerful, that's a pretty awesome bowling lineup. Does that sort of turn you off any of those Thunder bats?
Yeah, definitely. A little bit concerned. Yes. Look, the other thing I think we've got to look at is that Paul Walter has not fired at all this season for the Heat. So, he could come out and have a blinder as well, which we saw quite a bit last season. So the combination of Walter, Neser, Bartlett and Johnson with, the spin boys behind them, it's pretty scary to think about. And you just have to go back to last year, obviously, and the demolition that they, did throughout the tournament. And the reason that the Heat won the whole thing really was because of those 5 or 6 boys. So, yeah, it's a bit concerning. I guess for me, Warner is in just a different touch at the moment. He's playing so well. He's got a scores of 108 and 68, which probably means he has a shocker this round because we've brought him into our teams and, everyone's confident in how he's playing. But the other thing that's, a little bit concerning along with the Heat bowlers is the Heat are also really good at restricting opening batsmen. They've only allowed an average of 31 GDS points, which is on the much lower side for the opening partnership. So, yeah, that's a bit concerning as well. Warner's passed the eye test, though, as I said. He the last couple of games, he's looked like he's, had a lot more mature touch about him. He hasn't gone out there, played some really ridiculous shots, and he looks like he wants to be there, and he looks like he wants to lead the Thunder from the front. The fact that Bancroft's not there might change his mindset. I'm not quite sure. What we might see later on as the week goes on as well is whether Sammy Constance comes back and what that looks like to the team and how that might influence Warner again as well. So there's a couple of question marks over him. But look, with that change in personnel, there's probably some opportunities for him as well. So I'm happy to risk going with Warner, having that 2 bite to the cherry and hope that, he at least gets that 50 plus that we want from him in terms of GDS points.
Yeah, spot on, mate. Form in cricket is everything, and he is certainly in some. You've just got to look at the likes of Finn Allen and Chris Lynn. They were pretty, dismal to start the season, to be honest. And then they've put 2 knocks back to back, and they've talked the town, and they're scoring massive, and I think they're going to be pretty heavily favoured this round as well. So Warner's in that same category. He's such a good bat. He's been doing it for a number of years, And yeah, maybe the confidence is all he needed to put the team on his shoulders, so to say, at the top of the innings there. Without Bancroft and Sams now, there's even a little bit more responsibility there for him as well. Does that have a valuable impact on his game? Hope so, maybe. But yeah, it's just that matchup with the Brisbane Quicks that have me really nervous. I think he's in 2 of my squads at the moment. I'm not sure if he'll make all 4. But yeah, I'm just really concerned about that. And you beat me to the punch as well about Sammy Constas. He could be one of the biggest pods of the whole tournament if someone is brave enough to start him, given that he won't be playing tonight, given I think he was pictured in his whites at the Sydney Cricket Ground at about 11 p.m. last night, still soaking beer in hand. So he won't be backing up tonight, but there's every chance that he does back up and play on the Wednesday. We know that there's rain around. You could plug him into your side now, cross your fingers and your toes, and hope that he gets a start Wednesday. And whether he scores a big one or not, it'll be entertaining, that's for sure. So that would be a massive play, and he doesn't have to play against those Brisbane Quicks. Sounds like a win-win to me. I do like Sam Billings. I'm a little bit more confident maybe in starting him, given that he has since moved down to number 5 to accommodate Sherfane Rutherford, who has finally found a little bit of form. Definitely not with the ball though. That was a bit of shocking what he dished up. I don't think he'll be given the ball again. But there is some hesitation starting him, I guess, if the Thunder bowl first. He's currently 3rd in averages for all wicket keepers. He's averaging 50. He's got the 4th most runs scored. He's got the 2nd most catches taken for wicket keepers behind only Josh Philippe. So he's a really stable play in your wicketkeeper spot. He won't necessarily have to face the might of the 3 Brisbane Quicks early on. He might come in a little bit later, knock the spinners around, and then have a go on the power play. Maybe a little bit more confident starting him over Warner, but still really similar situation to Warner, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. Like the other thing, a lot of people probably want to temper expectations a little bit and have a look at what they do want out of their batsmen, out of their wicket keepers in that position. You have a look at the averages for all batsmen this season so far. It's only 29.1. So if your batsman can get above 30 points, you're above that average. So you should be pretty happy with that. Then same with wicket keepers, 34.5 they're averaging this season. So if you can get something similar out of Billings, anything above that obviously is going to be a plus. And I think he's probably got that opportunity and that ceiling, as you said, through his catches, through his fielding ability behind the stumps. He's got that opportunity to increase that ceiling. The other thing that I like about Billings, and it doesn't sound like much, but he has a score of 10 plus runs in every match so far. So it means that he's not going out swinging, and getting out for a duck. So you're not losing some demerits there. He's trying to build an innings to start with at least, before whatever happens from there. So I like that from Billings. I liked him last week for, very similar reasons. Obviously, it didn't quite work out and he had his lowest score of the season, but that means that, that 100-plus game is just around the corner again. And we've seen it already this season. He's got that ability, so we know that he can do that. So if he can come out and hit, 20, 30, 40, and then take a couple of catches, then, you're laughing.
Yeah, mate, all good points, and I think you'll find a spot in a couple of my squads as well, given that stability that he finds both with bat and those gloves. Mate, we've spoken about plenty of Thunder players. There is another team playing, and that is our team. Are you considering starting any Heat players tonight?
Yeah, I'm still looking at McSweeney at the moment as one of my my batsmen. He has scored 78, 8, 34, and 9. So far this season. So there's a bit of a pattern there. I'm hoping that pattern continues and he has a pretty decent game in this one. The Gabbers played a little bit differently than in the past as well this season. So it'll be interesting to see how the ground staff have got it rearing to go for this game and whether we get some higher scores, something more that we're used to around that 180 average rather than the 140s we've sort of seen lately. The Thunder do allow an average of 36.8 GDS points to batsmen, which is the second highest of all teams. So, there is some vulnerability there. There's an opportunity for McSweeney to get some points. We've seen him accumulate runs quite well and then fire at the back end of the innings. So, we want the Heat to go well. McSweeney's going to have to be a big part of that because, unfortunately, the players around him just aren't doing the job at the moment. he might even, he probably won't, but he's had an opportunity with the ball. With Nisa back, that's probably less likely, obviously. But if he does get that opportunity, then that's absolute gold. So I'm just banking on him having a decent hit with the bat. Against those Thunder bowlers that are a little bit susceptible to that, the batsman, and we'll go from there and hope that he has a good game.
Yeah, he's that type of player that can really put an innings together. Hey, he doesn't go, ballistic from ball one and throw his wicket away like a few others. He plays the right shots, and he can definitely lift the tempo when he needs to. So I think that's a pretty safe play. Maybe not the same ceiling as a Warner type that can just go nuts and keep going on with things. But yeah, I think someone for safety, and there's every chance, he might be throwing a ball, particularly if Colin Munro might throw on the ball and say, we need something. Whatever we're doing isn't working at the moment. He's that type of player that just gets thrown the ball and says, have a crack, see what happens. A number of teams have those sorts of players, and sometimes it comes off. And I think he got hit for 16 or 17 in that over, but then took a wicket on the final ball. So it worked once. And maybe Munro will go back to him again. But yeah, definitely a good player. Definitely scoring plenty of runs. I think third highest average of all batsmen. So yeah, I can see why he's on your radar for tonight. Someone else on my radar is Xavier Bartlett. There's always that question mark of who's gonna get the wickets between him and Spencer Johnson. There's now that third cab amongst the rank there with Michael Nisa. But I think Xavier Bartlett is just man on a mission. He's so good, and with Nisa as well, the batsmen are going to have to pick someone to go after. And I think Xavier Bartlett's swing and pace might just be really, really difficult to get away. So if they try to get after him, I can see him getting a couple of wickets. But we always say that, and the other two get the big scores. But I think he'll definitely find his way into one or two of my squads just because of how big his ceiling can be. Particularly if the Heat bowl first, I think he's far more likely to find his way into my squads. Sprinkling some Spencer Johnsons as well, because he's bound to go good too here on the Gabba deck.
Yeah, and you go back and have a look at Bartlett's scores throughout the season so far. The only down game he's really had was away from home. So he tends to enjoy playing at the Gabba and scoring well at the Gabba. So I would expect, even if Johnson and Nisa do fire, I still expect Bartlett to take a wicket or two and get you 30, 40, 50 points. So I could definitely see him steaming in and having a good one. My other one that I'm kind of looking at, and we've spoken about him a couple of times, is Michael Nisa coming back from injury. It's always a concern. We talked about that when Spencer Johnson came back with his toe, etc., and he fired. We've talked about that with a few other players. But I guess maybe the reason I'm leaning away from Michael Nisa at the moment is that the Thunder are pretty good at restricting the all-rounder position. So far this season, the Thunder players have restricted the all-rounders to an average of 32.6, which is the lowest in the competition. And obviously what we see with Michael Nisa is that he is mostly ball. All of his points, or most of it from last season came from his bowling points rather than off the bat. So that is probably even more reason for me to lean away from him at the moment. I will enjoy when I get to play him in my team, and I can't wait for that moment because I love watching him bowl. But yeah, for me, I'm probably just going to sit and wait on Michael Nisa coming back from the injury. I'm sure he's 100%, but yeah, that along with the Thunder ability to restrict that position, I think I'm just going to sit and wait and watch and hope he has a good game just for a fan's point of view.
That reminds me of 2 or 3 rounds ago when we sat here and said the same thing about Spencer Johnson returning from his injury and saying, "Oh yeah, we'll just wait and watch and see how he goes and hope he gets a couple of wickets." And he ended up top scoring and took 3 or 4 and absolutely put egg on our faces. But yeah, Michael Nisa in the all-rounder position makes things a little bit different, and there's definitely plenty of quality players that we can throw into our all-rounder position and just wait a week or two if we need to on Michael Nisa. Mate, we spent about the last 20 minutes talking about the game that we're heading to this evening. There are a couple of more games this round. We want to get to a couple of those before we head off and cheer on the boys in teal.
Yeah, definitely. Let's jump in.
Righto. So we're off to the west tomorrow. We're off to Optus Stadium for the Scorchers against the Melbourne Renegades. That's at 6:15 again. There won't be any weather complaints. It'll be another beautiful day for cricket on that nice flat Perth deck. Should be plenty of runs available for batsmen and a bit in it for the bowlers as well. The average GDS score is 36 points in the first innings. It's 36.7. The second innings, 35.1. So it stays pretty consistent all the way through the match. There's no real edge batting or bowling first. The Scorchers do allow the lowest points on average across the whole competition. So something to think about if you're trying to stick a few renegades into your team. They obviously defend really, really well. And they score an average themselves of 37.8, close to that 40-point mark, which we always say is, an exceptional score. The Renegades allow 35. They score an average of 33 themselves. So the stats slightly favour the Perth Scorchers. In terms of squad news, there's plenty of question marks. Hopefully, soon enough, there'll be some news regarding Perth's 14-man squad. We might see the likes of Jai Richardson make a return and maybe even Mitch Marsh as well. It's my understanding that Josh Inglis is still in rehab from that calf injury, and he's probably got his eyes set on Sri Lanka. So we might not see him in the meantime in the near future, and we might not even see him at all this tournament. So bit of a blow for them, but they've definitely got a quality squad, and they'll be able to replace him fairly quickly. But all eyes on Jai Richardson and Mitch Marsh. He'll be a massive inclusion for them. We saw what Mick Sweeney did when he returned from the Test arena, having been dropped. Marsh didn't get to play the 5th match as well, so he's got a point to prove, and he loves to score well with both bat and ball in the Big Bash. So looking forward to his inclusion. So the stats all favour the Scorchers, and the players of interest for me are quite Scorcher heavy as well. Mate, I'm considering the likes of Finn Allen, Jai Richardson, and Cooper Connolly. You got similar thoughts? Anyone else on your list that might get a run for you in Scorchers colours tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I'm going to fade Finn Allen this round. I don't think I can strike lightning twice with him, so I'm just going to let someone else have some fun watching him bat, or feel absolutely miserable when he gets out for a duck. The other player, as you touched on, obviously Richardson, should be back in the side pending those lists. So it'll probably be Richo for me. If he's not, then I'll probably lean Behrendorff over Richo. I love Morris, and I love what Morris is doing, but I just feel like it goes back and forward between those two, and I just feel like for me so far, I've seen just a little bit more from Behrendorff and what he has to offer. But I think it's splitting hairs. I think, we talked about, you just put any Scorchers bowler in, a quick bowler in, and you should be rewarded with some points in GDS. So, it'll just come down to that final team list. If Richo is named, then he'll find his way in easily. If it's not Richardson, then, probably Behrendorff over Morris just. What I like is when looking at bowling points only scored by quicks, the Renegades allowed an average of 39.3 to the quicks. So that's equal most. And then they average 44.5 to all bowlers across both bowling, batting and fielding points. So some definite opportunity there for the fast bowlers against the Renegades. I think there's an opportunity there. We've talked about the Perth deck plenty of times and what it has to offer to the fast bowlers. So I think that's pretty much a lock and load for me as one of the Scorchers fast bowlers for sure.
Yeah, when I see Jai Richardson's name on a team sheet when they're playing at Optus Stadium, it's almost a must for me. He loves playing there. He took 3 for 19 on the last outing there. And we know the Renegades, their openers, their top order is in a little bit of out of touch at the moment, particularly those top two, particularly one of them, in the Rooster and Jake Fraser-McGurk. This could be the innings that gets things rolling, but there's too much quality in that Scorchers lineup, and I'm backing Jai in to get a couple early up front, or definitely a couple late, as well as they close out the match. So Scorchers bowlers for me. If he's not named in that squad, then it's probably an easy pivot to like you said, Behrendorff or Morris. Take your pick. You probably can't do too poorly, whichever way you go there. Finn Allen, I am probably going to stick with him. I worked it out. All you need to do is sit there and bite your fingernails for 6 balls. If he gets through the first over, he goes on to score a massive score. He's been out 4 times in that first over, and the other 2 big scores that he's had for 50 and 68 is when he survived that first over. So you don't need to be nervous for long. You can be nervous for 4 minutes and 6 balls. If he gets through that over, you beauty. If he gets out early, well, so be it. You knew that was likely to happen. You mentioned at the top of the show that he changed the way he bats, and that was, before his match where he scored that first 50, and then he followed it with a 68 as well. So immediate rewards after changing that technique for the conditions and going back to what he knows works. And I'm just going to run with it until it shows signs of slowing down. We know how volatile the bat position is. He's got the game to absolutely blow the opposition off the park. The Renegades have been all right in the bowling department. They don't know who's in their best 4 quicks. Fergus O'Neill and Kane Richardson didn't even play last match. And they don't have a lot of depth or quality depth. And you can easily get on top of Tom Rogers at the best of times as well. So I'm still backing him in. I think he'll go well. He just scored 68 on this same pitch, so he knows it quite well. And he's finally starting to feel at home in Perth colours. The fans are finally starting to cheer him instead of booing him inside that first over.
Yeah, and I think I'm starting to cheer him again as well. So I've come around for sure. He rewarded me last week, obviously, with a big score. But yeah, I think after 2 big scores, I think I've done my dash. I'm happy with those. I've got the benefit of those. So I think I might just sit and watch and. Yeah, as I said, just enjoy. If he does, bat on from that first over, then yeah, good on him and good on all the coaches that played him. He might find a way into one of my other squads and just, as a bit of a coin flip and hope that he goes well and boosts one of those other squads. So I'll have a look at that a little bit later and see there might be some tinkering happening. There was a player that you touched on.
It's not like you, mate. Sorry.
That's right.
Not like you to cash your chips in and leave early.
You've got to hedge. You've got to continue to hedge, don't you? Surely. Yeah. Although, as I said at the top of the show, that the season prize that becomes, a bit of a cloud over your head when you start making some of these 50-50 calls and swapping players in and out. So, yeah, maybe we'll see. I don't know. I love Finn Allen. I love what he's done the last 2 games. So I'd be happy to play him. And if I know that he can get past that first over, I will definitely play him. But yeah, as you said, the other player that you talked about that batsmen can get on top of a little bit is Tom Rogers. And I'm looking at playing Tom Rogers. And there's a couple of reasons. Look, obviously we've seen he's top of the list in terms of bowlers. He's taken 11 poles from his 6 appearances. And he doesn't look like he's slowing down yet. As you said, there's a bit of a concern over the rest of the bowlers at the Renegades. They're not really sure what they're doing. Zampa has, fired at times, and others he's gone wicket-less. So, they're not really getting much success with him. But at least through Tom Rogers, they can give him the ball and they know he's going to strike at least once or twice. We also saw that he came out and he had a bit of a batting ability. I didn't know that he had. I think he had 23 to sort of save the innings at the end there with Zampa a little bit. So, we don't pick bowlers for their batting ability, but if you can get some runs at the end of an innings, then that's all, that's pretty good. What I do like is that Scorchers allow an average of 38, almost 39 points to bowlers. And of the 22 wickets that have been taken at Optus Stadium, they've been taken by quicks. So there's a lot more in it for the quicks, obviously, that we've talked about, than the spinners or the medium pacers. So Tom Rogers, if the Renegades are going to get close, and they are pushing for a final spot, they have been playing well at times outside of those sort of the openers. You talk about Bethel as well. He's been playing really well, and he's been their other option. I think they're going to need Tom Rogers to fire in this game, and I think he might take a couple of quick wickets and get me that 40, 50 points that I need.
Yeah, he certainly has been performing pretty well. He can go for a bit, but just seems to be taking some wickets when it counts, and runs with the bat are super handy for anyone in that bowler position. Mate, you mentioned Jacob Bethel. He's someone that I'm really considering starting in my all-rounder spot alongside potentially Cooper Connolly in this match as well. I'm just a little bit hesitant to see how he might find this Perth deck, playing a couple of matches down on Marvel, which is almost the complete opposite. very two-paced. It stays low, and it's very difficult to sort of get an innings going. This Perth deck is going to have the ball, shooting up at him, coming through a lot quicker. And the Englishmen always seem to maybe take a little bit of extra time to accommodate to those types of pitches. But in saying that, he's in some really rare form at the moment. He's coming off scores of 21 and 49. But it's the fact that he's been given the ball and trusted with the ball for 3 overs minimum across those last 2 matches. It's probably between him and a couple of Stars players that we might discuss briefly a little bit later on for the 4th match of the round. But with the return of Curran and maybe Webster alongside Stoinis and Maxwell, there's so many question marks about which Stars all-rounder is going to have the best role moving forward. It's almost a case of who wants to score the most points this round, and you've got a 1 in 4 crack to get it right. So I might put a bit of faith in Bethel continuing his run. He's fielding in the hot spots as well, and he's taking a couple of catches. But 3 overs with the ball. If the batsmen want to try to get on top of him, spin isn't the best method for wickets on that Optus Oval, but it just takes a bit of a miss hit or a catch on the boundary, and a wicket's still a wicket. But plenty of form with the bat, trusted with the ball, fielding in the hot spots. That's all you want from an all-rounder. And he's done nothing wrong, and he's probably going to get a spot in my squad this week.
And he's probably been the pick of the all-rounders from the Renegades now for the last couple of rounds. So we've seen Sutherland really struggle with both ball and bat, and he started the season so well, and I think he was sort of a set and forget for most people for those first few weeks, and then sort of dropped off and hasn't done much at all for the last couple of rounds, and Bethel started to stand up. So like you say, you go with the form and you go with the player that's scoring points and hope he has another decent game. In terms of murky waters, I want to talk about Cooper Connolly and what's happening with the Scorchers, because as we touched on, Mitch Marsh could be coming back. Agar's back from that, a back spasm. Aaron Hardy's every game closer to taking the ball. What do we do? He's the top scoring all-rounder at the moment in the competition, and he's in some unreal form. But, does he continue to bowl, and do we get those 2 to 3 overs that we need from him? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we need him to be taking wickets as such. Obviously, if he gets a really good ball and gets out cheaply, then that's his day done. If he's not getting the ball because of all of those players returning, but he's just been in super form with the bat. He's got a lowest score of 14. He's passed 50 twice. He's remained in the 40s, not out twice as well, which is just some really incredible form. He's so confident in his own ability. He's floating around that 3 or 4 position. He comes in when the top order struggles, or he can really capitalize on a really good start from the top order as well. So he's hitting it all parts of the game, all parts of the ground as well. It's with the bat alone, he's the top scoring player in the all-rounder position. Yeah, it's just that chance that he's not taking. He doesn't need to. It's just safety if he has a poor score with the bat, which is probably every chance to happen. But definitely some questions for owners as well if they want to play him. If Mitch Marsh, Agar are on the team sheet, I'll probably be far less likely myself. But if one of them are missing, particularly Agar, Spores was only trusted with 1 over. Even Turner bowled himself 1 over, and Connolly got the other 2. So it's really just Agar that probably going to chew into his overs. But because he's in some unreal touch with the bat, he's probably every chance to go off again and score another nice 40 or 50. And you're laughing, just the over with the ball is just extra points if he just so happens to take a wicket.
I guess the other concern for me is we saw last season he came out as low as 6-7 for the Scorchers and do a job there, or 2 seasons ago as well, I should say, and do a job there. So they know that he can come out sort of anywhere from 3 all the way down. With Mitch Marsh potentially back and a few others coming back to the squad, that might change that lineup just slightly again. We saw him move down the order from 3 to 4, and that didn't stop his runs from coming, and he still scored, I think, a 48 and a 43, in the last 2 outings. So moving down the order didn't change that. But if he goes down again, maybe there's some question marks, and I might then even look at, if Mitch Marsh is picked in the team, maybe he's the player that we go to, like you said, coming off the snub from the Aussie team and wanting to come and prove something, maybe that might be a late change that I might be looking at least in a couple of squads. Depending on that where he's named and what where he's coming out to bat, obviously, because if he can come out at 3 or 4, then we know he's got the talent and the form and the batting ability to have another massive game. And as you say, doesn't necessarily need the ball. So keep an eye on those team lists for sure. We do our best to try and post them in Discord, both the squads and then the final 11. So keep an eye on all the team news, because that's obviously going to be, there's some big impact there for a number of players.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I guess the advice is just to stay flexible and have a look at those team sheets and have a look where players are named. Yeah, if Mitch Marsh comes straight back in named at number 3, there's every chance he gets a couple of overs with the ball as well. So he probably all of a sudden be a better inclusion maybe than Cooper Connolly. And the same thing, I guess, with the Stars as well, with their plethora of all-rounder options as well. So we'll be keeping a close eye on their squad announcement, maybe tomorrow or the day after as well. All right. Anything else on game 2, mate, or should we move along to game 3?
Let's fly through game 3 because we've talked about quite a bit. There is some weather around, so that is the Thunder versus the Hurricanes at NG Stadium at 6:15. Look, the weather's the big concern. There's an 80% chance of rain, and it's about 15 mil that's expected. It's also likely to be raining on and off tomorrow, so that's not going to be a good indication either. So keep an eye on that weather. Keep an eye on any updates. You don't want to end up like me with a couple of donuts in your side because you haven't made those changes. Fortunately, the Thunder do have the game tonight, so you will get those points at least. In terms of the venue, the average GDS score is 32. The first innings, 34. It's a lot more conducive to points in the first innings. The second is only 29.9, so just shy of 30. The Thunder allow 35 that we've already talked about, and they've scored an average of 36.4. The Hurricanes, they allow an average of 33, and then they score an average of about 35. As we touched on as well, Sammy Collins just might find his way back into the squad here if that game does go ahead, and then it'll probably be Ferguson's last game again if it goes ahead. We've spoken at length about a number of Thunder players. Is there any Hurricanes that you've got maybe sort of on the edge of your squad at the moment pending that weather, or are we just steering clear of any Hurricanes players?
Yeah, not for me, mate. Not for me this round. Definitely in a couple of rounds' time when they're going to have two matches in the round, so they'll be a little bit more relevant then, I think, Cherry. But even this round with question marks over the weather, maybe reduced game or not even a game at all. Yeah, I'm not looking at any Hurricanes at the moment. But also what I'm finding really difficult with the Hurricanes is who to actually pick and play, who you'd actually feel confident in. It seems like with their 3 good bats, one of them might have a really good game and the other 2 fail, and then that seems to swap around pretty quickly. We've seen their all-rounders in, Mitch Owen, Jordan, Nikau Chowdhury. They can have some really big games and some really poor games as well. Mitch Owen doesn't bowl, so how do you pick him in the all-rounder spot? But then he goes out and scores, a massive 50 or a 60. We just saw Tim David light it up with the bat last night as well. So, yeah, determining actually which Hurricane player that you want to play that's in some form and is going to continue that has been really tricky. Nathan Ellis missed last match as well with illness. He came back and bowled well last night without any luck. He restricted, I think, the opposition to only 5 or 7 runs in that final over with a couple of dots. It was fantastic bowling, but it didn't cash in with any wickets, unfortunately. So yeah, no Hurricanes for me. There's weather concerns. They're a bit up and down. Players go off and then they have a couple of quiet ones in a row. If the game goes ahead tomorrow, it'll just be a watch at those players again and see which ones you want to put in your squad moving forward. You thinking similar, mate?
Yeah, I think I'm co-signing on everything you've said there. There's probably 2 big rules that we can talk about in GDS, and the 2 of them are you don't play an all-rounder that only bats, and you don't play a batsman that's coming out at 6 that doesn't do anything else. We saw Tim David have a big game, and we see that once every season, and that's it. He fades away again and doesn't do much after that. So I'm happy to have missed his score, and I won't be chasing his points at all. And same with Mitch Owen. I'm happy to just watch him light it up. But there's no way he's going to find a spot in my all-rounder position. You just need more from that all-rounder position. You need that option to bowl and bat and take catches in the field to really solidify that all-rounder position. So anyone looking at them, go ahead, please. Have a crack. And I think I saw Walkie Waxacker yesterday post his Tim David legend and in the reserves, and I had a bit of a laugh. But you're very rarely going to play Tim David unless you really have to, and maybe he does come into contention in their double game. But yeah, definitely not this one. Definitely with the rain around, I'll be just hoping that the Thunder come out and do get some points.
Yeah, I think if the game does go ahead, I think this is well suited to someone like Chris Green with his spin, and then with the bat if needed, with some quick fire runs toward the end of the innings. Maybe if it also is a little bit overcast overhead, that might be awesome for Lockie Ferguson as well. I don't think this will be great for the batsman. I think it's more so a Chris Green Lockie Ferguson match, so that's why they're both in my squad this round. And if you're playing any batsmen tonight from the Thunder, that's when you probably want to hope that they score their runs, because there's probably a much limited opportunity that they go on and improve on that score on Wednesday night. Just on that, Mitch Owen, if you like him, get over to the transfer market and buy a card or two, because he's all but guaranteed to be a bat only for next year, which means he'll become a lot more relevant, and you can actually start playing him in a couple of your squads, because he's just been awesome. He's sort of come from nowhere really and been really impressive. So hopefully he can keep that up. And if you've got a couple of his cards, don't stress. You'll be able to play him next year.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. And just one more thing. If this game does go ahead, I'm really hoping Billings can come out and have a massive one. The Canes have allowed an average of 45.5 to keepers, which is the third highest across all teams. But then they've also allowed keepers coming out the 3-4 spot, an average of 69 points across the season. So if Billings maybe moves up the order with Bancroft gone, and whether Sammy Constas comes in or not, or what's going to happen there, I'd love to see Billings move up just that one spot. And then he's got every opportunity to score big against the Hurricanes that are susceptible to, that position. So if the game does go ahead, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, agree, mate. He's their international signing. The more balls he faces is only going to result in better outcomes for them. So yeah, he should be moving up the order anyway.
Yeah.
All right, the round concludes at the MCG with the Stars taking on the Sixers. The Stars have finally found a little bit of form. Now, on Thursday, there is a little bit of chance of rain in Melbourne. It's probably not anywhere near to the degree of Sydney on Wednesday, but certainly something to consider tomorrow or Wednesday when you're looking at finalising your squads. If there is some more rain predicted for Melbourne, you might want to put a few other players in and reduce the amount of players you have for Thursday. But in saying that, at this stage, it looks pretty good. Yeah. The key venue stats for the MCG. Average scores a little bit lower in the first innings. There's only 27.7 on average in the first inning compared to 36 for the second innings. So we tend to see, the likes of Maxi, or Stoinis, want to take control of those favourable conditions in the second innings rather than in the first innings where there's more points on offer. The Stars do allow, in saying that, an average of 38.7 per match, which means that's the actual the highest that they allow overall, which means, the Sixers players are definitely in for a good outing. And also the Sixers score on average 38.3 themselves. So it's the most scoring team up against the least scoring team, or the team that allows the most points on offer. So that's a pretty good matchup in terms of Sixers players. So I'm definitely looking at including a couple of Sixers players in my lineup because of that stat. The likes of Josh Philippi, Jack Edwards, and even Ben Dorshus probably are all going to be pretty well played across a number of my lineups. You thinking something similar, mate?
Yeah, Ben Dwarshuis is probably the only one that I've just left out at the moment. I've gone Tom Rogers instead, just because of that little chance of rain. I don't want to get stuck on the last game, and that rain mean that I don't get a score there for my bowling position. So I've got Tom Rogers in at the moment. He's not a placeholder because he could still have a really good game, but it'll also, as it gets closer to that Thursday game, I'll then make a decision if it looks like it's going to fine up. But yeah, I've also gone Philippe. He's the best wicket keeper in the competition at the moment. The Stars are pretty vulnerable to wicket keepers, allowing an average of 49.5 to the position, which is the most of any team. And then Philippe averages 39.5 just with the bat, and then also adds another 13.5 behind the stumps. So as you touched on, he's taken the most catches already this competition. I touched on it last, throughout the preseason last year. He had the most catches in the competition and was the highest point scorer in the wicketkeeper position, along with Josh Inglis, because of, part of that was because of the catches that he takes. So I'm happy to roll with Flip again. He's always in form. I don't know what it is. He always stands up for these games as well, and has a massive one. And they're doing everything they can to push into the finals. So I think Flip's going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, spot on. Second highest wicket keeper average, second most runs, and also the most sixes for the wicketkeeper position as well, with 6. So I am actually going to have Billings in my wicketkeeper lineup and Philippe in my bat lineup, and there's every chance I might swap Philippe for a late Stephen Smith inclusion. Any ideas or any thoughts on that if he does get named?
Mate, that would be awesome. I think you'd be brave for 2 reasons. I think one, if there's no rain around, then definitely. I think maybe, I don't know. There's opportunity for him to obviously come out and have a massive game, which we saw last year in the tournament. I think he had a massive score in that first game back. But there's also every opportunity that there's still a bit of a hangover from the test and the celebrations, and he might come in and just have a bit of a swing and a bit of fun, and that be it. So yeah, I don't know. I'll wait and see what he looks like in the warm ups, and whether he is actually named. Obviously, they probably won't name their 14-man squad until the day before, until the Wednesday. So we've got to wait until then to see, and then obviously we've got to wait for that final 11 beforehand. But yeah, you almost just pick him just because you want to watch him play well, and that's and you want to get that good score. But yeah, there's all potential of him playing for sure.
Yeah, we've seen him do that before, 2 seasons ago and last season as well. It's just beautiful how he makes that transition look so seamless. Benny Dorcius, I like him, given that he's just been so consistent. He went wicketless in his last start, which was obviously the match before the washout with the heat at Coffs. But before that, he'd taken hauls of 4, 2, 2, and 2 wickets. He's got a GDS average of 65 points. He's also got plenty of ability with the bat as well. And I really like this matchup with the Stars. They've been vulnerable to pace bowlers. His left arm action, causes plenty of trouble for a number of those batsmen as well. They're such a good bowling outfit. A lot of them get amongst the wickets. And I think he's still someone that I want to put in my squad just because of how reliable he is. That 4-2-2-2 streak that he went on before going wicketless. Going wicketless doesn't turn me off him. I still think he's only probably more likely to bounce back now and get a few more. The Sixers will be disappointed that their previous match was abandoned against the Heat. So they'll want to come out firing in this one, and they'll be really fresh as well. Whereas, a number of those Stars players have had pretty brutal seasons already. They're finally showing a little bit of form. They might have a couple of players back in Webster and Curran, which changes things around in terms of strategy and roles and that sort of thing. So I think the Sixers are going to take advantage of that, and I think the Sixers are going to roll them, and Dorcius might be a big reason for that.
Yeah, I like Dorcius, and I'm pretty happy to play him if that rain disappears. My only question mark as well is there could be a return in Sean Abbott. Obviously, he was in and around the test side, leading into that final test, and he should come back, and he should find his way back into that squad. I don't think there's any reason why he shouldn't. Is he a concern for someone like Dorcius, or should we be more concerned about Abbott taking points off someone like Hayden Kerr or maybe Jack Edwards?
Yeah, for me, it's a bit more concern for Jack Edwards. I feel like Hayden Kerr might potentially find himself out of the squad entirely. Yeah. And yeah, Abbott might have a direct impact on Jack Edwards. We've already seen Edwards move back to the number 6 spot. And, if he's the 6th option with the ball, there's probably, he's probably a little bit less likely to get his 3 or 4 overs or bowling at the death there. We obviously won't know, even if Sean Abbott is on that team sheet alongside, Dwarshuis, Jackson Bird on his return. How many spinners are they going to play? There's plenty of bowling options there. I think it does impact Edwards and, probably Kerr out of the side completely. But, definitely a little bit on Edwards. But we know that Edwards is so good with the bat. And he even has been used as a bit of a floater before as well. Even if he's named at 6 doesn't mean he's definitely coming in at 6. So he's currently still in my squad for this round. But, definitely having a look at that Sixers team sheet. Abbott's listed as an all-rounder as well. So he'd even be a decent plug-in into that position as well. He'd be fresh. Spend a little bit of time with the test squad. He'd probably be coming in at 7, probably more guaranteed for overs ahead of Jack Edwards. So, he's probably a pretty decent pod over the likes of Edwards if someone's brave enough.
Yeah, and that's probably where my head's at the moment. I've got Edwards as well there. And I do really like Edwards, and I really like, what he offers with both bat and ball. And he's probably one of the epitomes of the all-rounder position this season so far. But you're right, moving down to 6, it's not ideal. It could mean that he doesn't bat at all, which is never good for that all-rounder position. But on the flip side, someone like Abbott could come in and take 3 or 4 wickets, and we don't need those batting points. He usually comes out sort of 7 in that Sixers side. So, that could be an option for me. I'm sort of toying with at the moment is play Edwards at this stage. If then Abbott comes into the side, maybe I might do that little late switcheroo and get on Abbott. Just on Jackson Bird as well. He was rested was going to be rested in that last heat game that was washed. So it'll be interesting to see whether he makes that team list with Abbott back as well and sort of what that team structure looks like. He's not an option for me, obviously, but if he is in that side, there's a little bit of concern over whether he might take a couple of wickets and eat into the workload of someone like Abbott and Edwards and Dwarshuis as well. So again, keeping an eye on those team lists and probably keeping an eye on the weather as well will probably come into that last minute decision. As you touched on, the Stars. In terms of all-rounder position, we're back to the start of the season where we've got 4 all-rounders and we have no idea what they're going to look like moving forward. At this stage, excuse me, I am going to backflip on my no stars all-rounder mantra. It didn't take me long, but I think that the thing is, without the strikers players, you lose 2 quality all-rounders there that pretty much are making everyone's squad every week. So you've got to try and be creative with where those points are coming from. I'm going with Stoinis at the moment, but that's probably going to change if they name Tom Curran and if he plays. It's probably more leaning towards Tom Curran. We saw him have a couple of down games, leading into that injury. But if they name him, excuse me, if they name him, then obviously he's fit and firing. And we've seen what a fit and firing Tom Curran looks like and how well he goes. And the Sixers do allow an average of 47.6 GDS points to all-rounders, which is the most of any team. So I want to exploit that. It's just a bit of a gamble at the moment, which all-rounder from the Stars is going to score a decent score. And there's, once again, there could be all 4 of them on the team sheet. So, just Webster come in and continue the form from the test. He was unreal, in his debut. But does he even bowl? Does Stoinis get all 4? Does Maxi finally get a bowl? So there's just so many question marks. I just can't believe it.
Yeah, it's almost easy just to put a red line through all of them, or plug all 4 of them into your starting lineup. And if one of them doesn't get named, there's Jack Edwards. If 2 of them doesn't get named, there's Sean Abbott, and you're good to go. So if 2 of them cash in, then you've got them right. But it's almost just like picking the lotto, isn't it? Picking the lotto numbers, working out who's going to do what each and every round. Bo Webster's in some sensational form, so he might be the one more likely to be put up the order a little bit and be trusted with the ball. Stoinis did not want to bowl many overs early on with Curran and Webster available, and he's been bowling a lot more recently. Maxi's come in at number 6 and hasn't even had a decent bat the last 2 or 3 knocks. So he's probably even 4th option now for me as a Stars all-rounder, which is just ridiculous to say. Too many question marks, too many head scratches. It's easy to just put a red line through them. find for all-rounders elsewhere and wait till things become a little bit clearer with a more stable lineup.
Yeah, the one thing that was interesting to me is that, since that current injury, they signed Dan Lawrence as his replacement, and he came in and he got a couple of opportunities with the ball. Whereas Maxi never. What we did see a couple of games ago was Maxi did have that little bit of a tweak in the field, and I think they said that the strapping on the ankle came loose. And he was sort of stretching it out a bit. So whether that's got anything to do with him not bowling, I don't know. But the other thing for me is that Stoinis has bowled almost, his full allotment every game for the last few games, and he hasn't really done much with the ball at all. So, all of the points that we've got from him is thanks to the batting ability, and he has batted really well over the last few weeks. So, I think for me that's why I'm sort of leaning Tom Curran, because I know what I'll get from him at least, and I know that role is pretty solid. With Bo Webster, I spoke about it in the preseason. I want him to, be that all-rounder where he comes out at 3 and then gets 2 or 3 overs with the ball. That would be super ideal, but I just need to see it first.
Yeah, all eyes on that Stars 14-man squad announced probably Wednesday afternoon. That'll be really interesting to see what they name and then what they roll out with on the Thursday against the Sixers.
Yeah.
All right, mate. On screen now, viewers will be able to see our round 6 squads. Obviously, there's a bit of flexibility in these squads that it might be plenty of changes, after teams are announced and that sort of thing. But just running through quickly some of the similarities, we've both gone with Billings, Warner, Philippi, Green, Edwards, Connolly, Richardson, and Ferguson. My differences are Allen, Bethel, Dwarshuis, and your McSweeney, Stoinis, and Tom Rogers at this stage. So some similar names at the moment, but I think my squad will look probably a little bit different by the end of the week, but that's where we're sort of leaning at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like it. But yeah, it's really important about being flexible and having some options up your sleeve. Don't just go in with your set and forget. Make sure that you've got a couple of options up your sleeve just in case there is weather around or someone's role slightly changes and you're not happy with it. You want to have those options ready to go. So make sure you know those options as well so that you're not panicked with 20 minutes to go on the clock before the ball's bowled and that lockout occurs.
All right, mate. Bro down, showdown.
How did Bales go for me?
Finally found my way onto the winners sheet. 2-1 to Stew, thanks to Behrendorff, Stoinis, and the weather down there in Coffs Harbour. You've been picking a couple of blokes not taking the field lately. Is that just to give me a chance, is it?
Yeah, maybe. I think I was 7-1 before that round, so 7-2. So I better let you back in.
No, I just call it 2 rounds to 0, and now it's 2 rounds to 1.
Yeah, I love it. Alrighty, so we are going to get a pack up here that Stu's going to pick. So one of the cards will be put onto the transfer market. We won't guarantee that it'll go up in the innings break today because we will be at the game, but we'll try our best for it to go up in the innings break. So, mate, we've got the pack on screen. I have pre-opened. Where would you like to go for the card that is going to go to the viewers?
All right, 2 for me, 1 for the viewers. Let's just go straight down the middle for the viewers.
Unreal. Here we go.
They can have the card in the middle. And it's a tough one. You probably would have been in our discussions this episode, save for the injury that he sustained at the start of the season, which ruled him out of the tournament, unfortunately. Let's see what else I get. I might, depending on how the Heat go or how my team go tonight, I might add another one to the transfer market later on as well.
Let's get this right one here. Okay.
He scored took 2 or 3 wickets last night and bowled pretty well. So he definitely comes into consideration in a couple of rounds' time. And let's have a look on the left, please, mate.
All right. Ooh, here we go.
Gurinder Sandhu.
We saw him come in and have a blinder, so you never know. Could be an option.
Yeah, he bowled really well. He might be the one to take down the Red Hot Scorchers lineup.
Maybe.
All right, mate. Well, thank you for those cards.
Yeah,
Everyone that's watching now, tune in. Keep an eye on the transfer market for maybe that Slyman call that might go up pretty cheap during the innings break this afternoon or this evening, if I can remember. Shoot me through a direct message on the Discord if I've forgotten to do so. And that Maddo probably doesn't count, so that Slyman call is going out to the viewers.
Love it.
Who are you looking at for next round, mate?
Yep. So I'm backing a couple of Thunder players and then Jack Edwards in the middle there. Obviously there's a big asterisk around his role, but I think he should come out and hopefully have another big game. So you've gone Sam Billings at the top for the bat wicket keeper, Jack Edwards for the all-rounder, and then my man to have an absolute blinder in his last round, show everyone why he is one of the best bowlers in the world in Lockie Ferguson.
Yeah, some good picks there, mate. We love the Sydney teams this round, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And I've gone for Philippi, Green, and Dwarshus. We've spoken about all 6 of these blokes at length. Let us know in the Game Day Squad Discord and on the YouTube page who you think is going to win this one, and I'll see if I can claw it back to 2 rounds apiece.
Unreal. Alrighty, that concludes the round 6 preview. Thank you again for tuning in. As we said, it was an early one because we are going to jump straight into an Uber and head straight to the Gabba. If you are heading to the game, make sure you keep an eye out for us. If you see us at the game, come down, say g'day, and we might even throw you some GDS goodies as well. We might get a pack or 2 opening there if you see us. Once again, remember to jump on the Game Day Squad Discord server for more information, all of those squad lists, and then any questions that you have, we're more than happy to answer. Also, remember, if you haven't yet, sign up using the promo code FBAC24 for that free pack, and then make sure you get all your friends involved as well. You use each other's referral code so that you get some extra packs there too. Look, we'll see you again in a couple of days. I think the round 7 preview is on Friday, and it's that usual time of 5:15. So we're looking forward to the next round. Have a great one. Go the Heat. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dyl. Thanks, viewers. Go the Heat.